Hey, we're Saints. Father Chris, Deacon Greg here. Welcome to our crucifixion live stream. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. Christ is risen. How you doing?
Truly, he is risen.
How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't complain.
I'm happy to hear that.
All is well. So I'm going to start. Let's get it.
Go.
So I'm going to tell you, and I haven't told you all the details, although you know the high level stuff. Last week before, whatever, a few days ago, the young professionals group that we have in our parish had their monthly Bible study. And I went. And I went because they proposed a topic and they were going to lead it and they were going to discuss it. And the topic was, can we, as Orthodox Christians, as warrior saints, can we affiliate ourselves or align, I think was the word they use, with other traditional religions in order to combat the liberal progressive movement? And I heard that and I was like, I think I have to be there. Like, I need to make sure this doesn't go sideways. And what fascinated me the most about it, it was a fascinating conversation. There were more of these young people who were more conservative than those who were liberal that were there. Just numerically. I mean, it was like, I don't know, there's probably 30 of them. And it wasn't 50-50. It was more like at least 75-25. You know what I mean? And they were what I was floored. I told the kids after, they're not kids, these adults, beautiful people. I said, look, I'm really proud of you guys because this could have been a contentious conversation, but you handled this with respect and dignity. I wish everybody could have this kind of conversation with that type of respect and dignity. It was really impressive. All of that to say, I lead that to get to this. In the midst of their conversations, they were asking or trying to answer that question, do we align ourselves with other traditional religions? They even went, listen to this, they even went into non-Christian religions, right? Like, can we align ourselves with Islam? Can we align ourselves with, maybe more conservative Buddhists or whatever? I forget Mormonism they even talked about. And not aligning ourselves in their beliefs. But so here's an example. So before I get us in trouble. The Orthodox Church is pro-life. So if there's a pro-life march that is sponsored by Muslims or Mormons or, very conservative Roman Catholics, can we align ourselves with them? That was kind of what they were saying, not theological alignment.
Right.
Okay. So anyways, it was just an interesting exercise. All of that rambling leads to this. In the conversation, because most of them were definitely leaned more conservatively, the word Republican kept coming up. And they kept saying it, yeah, if you're a Republican, this. And I never said a word the whole time. This was their conversation. I was just there to make sure it didn't get out of hand, which it never did. But finally, at the end, and this is where I think maybe we can, a launching point for us. I said to them, look, how are you defining yourselves? How are you identifying, right? Like, are you a Republican? Or are you a warrior saint? Like, how do you look at yourself? And here's what I said, look, I'm neither, right? I'm not registered. I don't have any interest in any of that kind of stuff. But there are some things that the Republican Party does that I like and some that I don't. And likewise, there are some things that the Democratic Party does that I like and some things that I don't. But if I identify myself with either of them by saying I am an X or a Y, then all of those things become in some way part of my identity. And so the question is for us today, who do you identify as? How do you identify yourself? Who do you identify with? Let's say it like that.
Yeah. It's a really good question.
Well, look, I think it's important, G. I mean, I think it's so important because, in the world that's out there with this whole identity politics thing that people are always fighting about, it can get tough.
Well, I think it gets tough because as you put it in the world out there, everything, however we want to define that, you are being shoved in a box.
Right.
And once you're shoved in that box, then you are assumed to believe everything that goes along with whatever that box believes. And that's why then when the arguments start, because everyone starts getting fired up about these topics, as you say, they start calling you ists and they call you a this and a that and the other. And like, there's no discussion, but there's also no internal discussion. So what I mean by that is the external discussion doesn't happen because it turns into a fight when you start going into boxes and everyone is juxtaposed against each other. But internally, you're not having that discussion of, do I actually agree with everything that I am now identifying as? We rather just identify ourselves in a certain way. Like, I'm going to use a really silly example. I am a Steelers fan.
I knew it.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was going to be there. I'm going to move my microphone so they can all see the helmet behind me. There we go. But like, as a Steelers fan, there are certain things that means.
Yes.
Right? That means that I don't like Cleveland. Sorry, Cleveland.
I like Cleveland.
Means I don't like the Ravens because they used to be the Browns, even though they want to think that they have their own history. Their history is that they were the Browns. So therefore, my history with them is that I don't like them. Yeah. More people were upset in Pittsburgh than they were in Cleveland that the Browns were actually leaving Cleveland. That's a true story. Anyway,
So look, you said something. Sorry, go finish it.
No, but my point is, I am okay being aligned with everything that comes with that when I say the phrase, I am a Steelers fan.
Even the stinky towel?
Even the terrible towel.
Terrible towel.
I have one hanging in my office. I have one for each member of my family. And like it's a thing. I even have one that says #1 dad.
The stinky towel.
That's me.
I've changed his name.
Yeah, you didn't. But at any rate, we're not even going to get into the Cowboys. I have the Cowboys are like CD players. Neither has really been relevant since the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that was messed up. But my point in saying that is, I am comfortable having this discussion right now as I say the phrase, I am a Steelers fan. So the minute I get into the other stuff, if I've not thought through, do I actually think all these other things? It doesn't matter. It is assumed that I believe all of the things and I align completely with all of that.
That's it. Exactly. That's where, that's the danger of it, because you said at the start of this whole Steelers tirade that if you say and identify as X, that it is assumed that but even more so that, you said it's assumed by others that you believe all that goes with it. The challenge is you are also beholden to that. I mean, if you're going to claim to be something, you've got to take whatever goes with it, which is okay if you are a Steelers fan because it means things that don't move. But in this political environment and in this identity politics environment, what the Democrats claim to be a part of and the Republicans claim to be a part of, or to be, their platforms, it's constantly evolving.
Right. And then you find yourself in a situation where you, because you are blindly following everything that a certain political party is going with, are forced to defend a point that you might not actually want to defend.
Absolutely.
But it has now become a part of something that you believe because you've made the statement, I am a this.
Right.
Now, the danger in that is, are you? And why then? So this is my question. You said, how do you define yourself? I think the problem is when we start saying I am a this, that, or the other thing, especially when we go down the identity politics rabbit hole, I am allowing someone else to define myself.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and in some sense, everybody has to have a reference that they bang up against to be the defining factor.
Right.
But who do you want to be that reference? In other words, like, that's where we'll ultimately take this conversation, is obviously, hopefully God and his word will be that reference. But, as a Steelers fan, just to keep using your example, the Rooneys define who you are. They set that standard by having, not PNC, what do they call it? Yeah.
Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah. So, still
Heinz Field to me.
Heinz Field, right. So, they had a hand in that. They had a hand in its location. They had a hand in the colors, or maybe the colors are older than their ownership. But you know what I'm saying? Like, who is their quarterback? Who is their coach? What's the flavor of the team? They have. So as a Steelers fan, that is given to you. The challenge with meaning the reference that are the values. But what do you do when the values and the ethics of the things that are given to you are, maybe perhaps from a corrupt source?
Yeah. Or what do you do when your Steelers ownership, who you are aligning yourself with, then start dabbling in games and political spheres that you maybe don't want to be associated with? How do you deal with that
Yeah, because
tension?
now you're stuck.
Because now you're stuck,
Right.
and you're still allowing someone else to define things about you. And then you're back to that being boxed in. I think this is great. And I'm really excited to see where it keeps going, because I mean, how do you deal with that? Once you go into it, how far down that rabbit hole do you go before you start finding something else to be referential?
All right. I think great. This was excellent. I think right now, thus far in this convo, we've set a hook. We've got a question out there. Who defines you, and how do you let them define you, and so on. And I think hopefully in the rest of this conversation, we'll get to it and figure it out. But at least at this point, let it suffice to be that we're positing that question that we want everyone, all of our warrior saints, to reflect on, to think about. Who do you allow, or who do you identify with, or how do you identify yourself? What do you call yourself? What's your label, right? That's a great question. And even if we go no further in this conversation, even just to throw that out there and let people wonder and ask themselves that question, that's great. It's great stuff. Hey, Warrior Saints, thank you so much for being with us. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps us get the word out there. And if you want more, visit us at warriorsaints.org and subscribe to Understanding the Bible. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.